Oh my gosh, bro. Who is this? It's me, guys. I've returned. It's been like 28 years, but I've returned. Okay. So, for those who don't know me, because I feel like you probably don't, I'm Ryan Valdenberg. I am a film critic, reviewer, I'm a writer, you know, spend my days consuming cinema. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So I've made a film review on this channel before. It was for The Fly, 1986. Yeah, because that was one of my favorite films in the world. But today, I'm going to be talking about Backrooms. Oh my god, Backrooms. So, I'm going to go into a little bit of like the original lore, and then I'm going to discuss the film that came out on May 29th, 2026. Okay, so I feel like pretty much everybody knows about the Backrooms. Some like adults and like older people probably not, but like, you know, for the most part, it's like a pretty famous thing. So the Backrooms is like a concept of like so like if you were to no clip, you know, through a wall, that word stems from like how in like video games, if you like go through stuff, they call that no clipping, you know. So if that happens, you know, you find an entrance somewhere and then you end up going through something, you're gonna be in the Backrooms, which is, you know, like this crazy place. And you know, it's kind of like liminal space. It's kind of how the term liminal space came to be, I believe. But it's just like places that like feel really familiar and just also feel like weird in a way. And so when you no clip into the Backrooms, you can't come back out, you know, typically. That's what they say. I'm not exactly familiar with all of the lore on it. I do know, like, enough. Like, I should, because I'm, like, a member of the generation who it was pioneered by. But, yeah. So anyways, in some versions of the concept, there are entities, and like some versions keep it more like of a psychological concept. Yes. And so, anyway, where it came from was one day in like some years back, somebody took a picture of like this like abandoned like store, and then put it onto like 4chan, and then everybody saw that, and then some people decided to like come up with lore for it, and so then there came the concept of the Backrooms. It was given a name, it was given a story, and it became like really, really popular. It kind of was like a crazy phenomenon, and everybody knew about that, and like people were like making their own ideas for it. People would make like their own entities up. They would create like levels for it, you know, stuff like that. And so one day, like a couple years ago, this guy named Kane Parsons, aka Kane Pixels, made an animated series with his own lore. And then his version of it became like the most famous, and so he like basically was like the one who brought it to its biggest point. Yes. And so, like, once he was there, it became, like, the most popular it ever was, and it became, like, the biggest internet phenomenon in the entire world. And then, once he was there, everybody knew what the Backrooms was. Everybody was like, oh my god, the Backrooms! And there was, like, a bunch of freaking Roblox games. There was actual games. There was, like, people made their own series. People made, like, homemade movies. They did a lot. And when he made up his series, he was quite young. He was like 15. He's a young teenager, and he did all that. And it, like, millions of people in the world were watching his stuff, and it turned into, like, people, like, it stemmed out into, like, a million people's different versions. And so then so many people loved it so much that it came to a point that, like, people knew of the fan versions more than they knew of Kane's original version, which was a little crazy. So, like, yeah. So, yeah, like, when the original concept of it was already there, like, you know, it was pretty, like, popular as it is, and, you know, that inspired, like, people to make their own lore up. But, like, yeah, it just, like, it reached its peak when he got in there. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is peak. This is tough. This is aura. This is crazy. I don't know why I'm saying all that. I don't know why I'm talking like that. But, like, you get me. You feel me? So, basically, yeah. And then, like, there was, like, dude, like, the Roblox games are, like, so ridiculous, though. Like, they would just make, like, stupid, like, brain rot games and, like, put, like, anything in there. It's like, bro. And there was, like, millions of them, like, just, like, copy after copy. It's like, ooh, shoot, bro. And then, yeah. Alright. So, it's been a couple years. And the concept of the Backrooms is, like, the biggest thing that has ever hit in a long time. So, one day, so eventually, A24 comes into this picture, bro. A24, and they want to, like, pick this up. They kind of want to, like, do that. So, eventually, I'm not exactly sure of, like, you know, the process that went down here, but eventually, like, Kane Parsons got to make a film about the Backrooms with A24. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And now we have one of the best horror films in a long time out. And he became the youngest director for A24 ever. He literally directed his film at 20 years old. He was 20 years old. And he probably started, like, making it, like, when he was still, like, a late teenager, because, like, you know, like, it takes a while to make a film, it takes a while to be on set. So, like, he was a teenager when he got to do this, basically. Shoot, bro. I gotta get in there. Yes. And so now we're gonna talk about that film. So, okay. Time to get to these details. You know, I feel like I remember good enough. Just might take me a minute, because I don't know why. My memory has been, like, decreasing. I don't know. But, yeah. So, I saw Backrooms in the cinema 3 different times. Like, it was crazy. It was an experience, you know, something to remember. And I was like, yeah, you know, first time I saw it, I was like, that was amazing. Then I went the next day, and then I went a couple days later. Ooh, crazy. Okay, so anyways, now let's actually talk about it. So, the film begins with there's like this like random guy who's in the back rooms, and it like tells us that he was like with a group for the Async Corporation. The Async Corporation like studies the back rooms and like tries to figure out what it is. And yeah, they used to make MRIs, but then they changed their trajectory of research to the back rooms. Yeah. So anyways, it begins with this guy who works for Async, and he's like running around the back rooms because he got lost. And he's like, oh shit, guys, where are you, bro? Can you come get me, bro? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then, yeah, and it's like, it does like the like style of recording on it looks like really good, and it actually looks like a 90s camcorder. And I'm like, wow. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is not a film from 2026. Oh my god, this is beautiful. Yeah, like the second it opens up, you're already like, this shit is peak. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so he's like running around there, and eventually, he like sees something. She's like the creature, and starts like to run away, and then enters and like throughout these shots it like does incredibly at like showcasing this like the backroom set, because they actually built like a very big practical set of the backrooms. Like they literally built the backrooms as the set, and like they would say that like crew members would get like lost in the set. Like, it looks so good. It's actually beautiful. It's like I felt that I too was in the backrooms. Yeah. So, okay, so eventually he reaches this one room and gets slimed out. Man. Yeah. So, yeah, that scene was just like a little introduction to what the backrooms looks like, so that like we know what we're gonna get into later. They just kind of did that. So anyway, so then later we see like a little glimpse into our main character, who is a therapist named Dr. Mary Klein. She's really cool. I love her. Yeah. And so like it shows like her childhood house like getting torn down, and she's like watching it, and it's kind of like reminiscing on that. And when they like, because like a lot of crazy stuff happened in her childhood house, like her mom was like mentally ill and like didn't let her go outside. So, but like despite all the terrible memories, like like that was where she grew up. She's gonna think about that. Yeah, so like when they tore down the house, they like cut out like a piece of like the concrete where like she put like a handprint in as a child, and now she keeps that, and like she kind of carries it everywhere, and like like it's sentimental. So then we see a little bit of like some liminal space settings. It looks really good. And then so we see Mary doing her therapist job, and her patient is this guy named Clark. So Clark is the owner of a furniture store called Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire. And his store is kind of failing. Nobody really goes there. He only has 2 employees, and they like film ads for him, and he dresses up as a pirate, and he like advertises the store like he's a pirate, and so his like OC is called Captain Clark, hence the name of the store. Yeah. And that'll be kind of relevant later, actually. So he runs this store. And like he used to be married, but his wife left him. Actually, his wife kicked him out of his house. And like, yeah, and so whenever he goes, so whenever Clark goes to therapy with Mary, he like talks about that, and he's always like, he's still on that all the time, you know, because like, I mean, fair. So like, yeah, so they're in, so in their they're in the therapy session, and like Mary always does this thing with Clark where she has him like role play the night that his wife left. And he's like, why do I gotta do that? I always feel stupid doing that. And then she's like, you know, but like that's just the exercise that we do. And so yeah, then they go into, and like this is like how we kind of get like the exposition on Clark's life. You know, like I actually feel like this was like a really good way to do that, like rather than him just like saying it in a bunch of like poorly done exposition or something. Like this was like a really creative way to like reveal his lore, you know, like it's not like too obvious exposition. I've said exposition 3 times, but like you know, it's not like that. It's not like feeding it to you in like a dumb way. Yeah. So like they're doing the like therapy role play, and so like within Clark's dialogue, like it's revealed that like, yeah, so like he's always been like trying really hard to open the store, and like that's like his career, because he always wanted to be an architect, but he didn't get to. So his next best shot was open a furniture store. You know, that still has something to do with that, I guess. Yeah, and so he was married. So like he was married to a woman named Barbara who wanted to be a lawyer, but she was like still in law school, and she didn't have like a regular job, so she kind of like didn't like help out as much as she would like. And you know, she like would take breaks from school, and he would pay for her schooling, and he was always really pissed about that. And so yeah, and like he would always, and so he was like sort of depressed. So he turned to drinking all the time, getting drunk frequently, you know. And so she was not a fan of his drinking problems. Yeah, so like all around, it was just crazy over there. They didn't have the best relationship, and he would always complain, and you know, he would always like come home late because he would like be at his store all the time, and so stuff like that. And so eventually they just had enough of each other, and she like kicked him out, even though the house did belong to him. But she was like, man, get out of here, bro, I'm done with you, get out. So yeah, now he lives in his store. He literally just like his bed is literally a bed in the furniture store. Yeah. So anyways, the way that all this stuff was revealed was through the therapy roleplay like thing that they do, which, like I said, is a very genius way to reveal a character's lore without making it too like directive exposition. Yeah. And like you also get a glimpse into like Clark's character, and like how he behaves, because like he like when he's like role playing as himself talking to his wife, he's easily rage baited. That's not a proper word, but like you know what I mean. But like yeah, and so it's kind of like easy for him to get agitated, and he like lashes out like at Mary, who's like pretending to be his wife, and like, you know, you can just like see like the anger that he has, and he's not quite able to keep it in, you know, and he like, you know, just like lets it out at other people. Yeah. Wait a minute. Okay. And like, so he also like is not physically able to let go of the career that he didn't get to have. Which like I feel like he still low-key could like do, but he just thinks it's too late. But like, and so even like Mary pretending to be his ex-wife, like she says like, she starts saying like a thing that she would have said, and is like, just because you didn't get to be an architect doesn't mean that whatever. And then he gets like genuinely offended at like the fake conversation, and he like lashes out at Mary and is like, I am a fucking architect. That's like a quote. People use it as memes now. Yeah. And it's like, he's just not a very stable individual. He's got some stuff to work on, you know? Yeah. And like, so that's just a little glimpse into how both of those characters' lives. And then, yeah. So later, we see Clark back at his store, and he's filming an ad with his 2 employees. He doesn't even have any more than that. So this girl named Kat and this guy named Bobby, they're a couple. They're together. They're so cute. I love them. What happens to them later is terrible though. But yeah. So basically, they're filming his ad, and he puts on like a pirate costume, and he like puts like this like piece of wood on his legs, like look like he has like a peg, like he like hops around the store. Like I don't even know why I gotta do all that. But yeah, so then he has like Bobby film him, and yeah, and so when he acts like in the video, like the like way that he like the tone of which he like delivers all of like the dialogue for the commercial, it's like the way he like speaks is so like layered. It's like really interesting because like you can tell that he's still like barely holding it together like while like doing the ad, and like you can like hear what in the ad that he like hates what he's doing and hates his whole life, and he like just has this like tone of like instability in his voice, and like it's kind of disturbing. Like it's really, really cool like how he portrayed that. So like I could talk a lot about that actually. Like it's just like really interesting. Like go watch like a clip of like the Captain Clark's commercial. Like they probably have it posted somewhere. Like it's really interesting. Like you know, you can tell he's like barely faking it. He's barely hiding it. It's just like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but just like the acting there, like the acting on display there is like amazing. Like, okay. Speaking of acting, by the way, this cast is genuinely insane. It features, like, the main characters are both played by Oscar nominees. We got Clark as, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Mary is Renata Reinsve. He was nominated for 12 Years a Slave, and she was nominated for Sentimental Value, which was last year, actually. Yeah, like, they're incredible. I will say, he kind of, like, he's, like, the spotlight, though. Like, there's so many layers to his performance, and he's just, like, I want to go see the rest of his filmography because of what he did here. Like, I can't believe that I, like, didn't really know of him before now. yeah, and like everything he did in this film, I was like, oh shit, that's acting. No wonder he was like an Oscar nominee. That's insane. Yeah. Anyway, so later on, now that we've known our characters, yeah. So in the store, there's like an issue with power. Like the lights like turn off all the time, and like, so like they're always like, bro, what the frick is going on with the power in my damn store? And there's like this like electrical guy who comes over and is like looking at like the whatever the hell it's called, with all like the switches. I think it's called a breaker box, I don't know. But like, yeah. And there's like this one switch on the box that like looks weird because it's like put in the wrong way, and Clark is like, why is it built like that? And so eventually like the lights all turn off, and in the wall there's like this little thin line of like a glowing light coming into the store. And then Clark is kind of looking at it. He's like, bro, what? He's like, what's that? And then, so he goes closer to it and like goes to feel it, but his hand goes into the wall, and it's like, bro, what? And so, yeah, and so then he just like falls all the way through, and now he's in the back rooms. This is the first time that a main character sees the back rooms. And then, yeah. So yeah, and he's like looking around and is like so confused and is like, oh my god, what is this? And then he like explores, and again, the set design, absolutely incredible. It looks amazing. And like, yeah, he goes through a bunch of different rooms, and there's like this one, and like the very first room that he sees actually has like a bunch of furniture in it. There's like theories that like the Backrooms was like taking stuff out of his store or something, but like, I don't know. Like, yeah, and so like the rooms just look like amazing. Like, yeah, I keep saying like, I don't know why I'm doing that, but yeah, so okay, I need to figure out how to speak. Anyways, yeah, so he's exploring the back rooms, and then he makes it through a bunch of rooms, and eventually, like, kind of gets lost a little bit, and then, like, hears, like, a crazy sound, and then has to, like, run back to go find the entrance again, and then he's, like, touching the wall everywhere, and, like, thinks that, like, the entrance disappeared, and is like, bro, how do I get back in? Oh, shit. But then eventually he, like, finds it and then falls back through. But then goes back in to go grab, like, a stool out of the pile of furniture to, like, bring it back so he can, like, so, like, that's actually, like, a lot of people, like, make fun of that scene and don't get why he did that. But, like, he took something out of the back rooms to bring back to the world, like, to prove that it actually was real, you know? Like, taking something out of it, like, proves that that actually is a thing, and that that's actually, like, a place that exists. You know, you feel me? Yeah, so, eventually, he goes back to therapy and tells Mary, like, I found something. And she's like, what? And he's like, I found a place. Ooh, shit. Yeah. And he kind of, like, sounds, like, crazy as hell when he's explaining this. And, like, Mary's facial expressions were, like, frying me, because, like, every time he said something, she was just, like... And then he was, like, and, like, he kind of starts to think that he's, like, going insane. So he's like, have you ever 5150 someone? And she's like, only if they were, like, you know, explains, like, how that works. And then she kind of, like, shows that she does not believe what he's talking about, because, like, he starts explaining, like, what the backrooms look like. Oh, by the way, nobody in the film ever says the word backrooms. Like, they don't ever, like, actually, they don't ever, like, name it or anything, which I think is really great, actually. like, that's just, like, a plus, you know? Like, that, the simple fact that nobody, like, says the word is kind of, like, brings more realism to the film and, like, makes it feel like an actual, like, storyline you can take seriously. You know, because low-key, I was expecting someone to, like, drop the B word. I was expecting to hear at least once somebody say, like, the back rooms, but nobody did, and I was like, I like that. I love that a lot. You know, it just makes it feel more plausible and more, like, immersive. Yeah, so, like, she does not believe him, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back in there. I'm gonna get proof, and you're gonna owe me a serious fucking apology. Yeah. So basically, later on, he decides he's gonna go back into the back rooms, and he's going to take his employees, Kat and Bobby, to help him explore. So he goes over to, like, where they live, and is like, guys, I'll pay you extra if you help me with this thing. So yeah, he brings them over. And they all, and so, like, they're both like, dude, what is going on? Why aren't you telling us what we're doing? And he's like, research. We're researching. Yeah, so they're, like, low-key, like, scared as hell, and they're like, is this guy gonna do something? Yeah. And so, like, by this point, he had, like, made, like, a map of the back rooms, and, like, he, taped a door, like, you know, like, did an outline of, like, the part where the wall goes in, and, yeah, so now he, like, knows where to go and stuff, and knows, like, how to find the entrance and the exit, and so, like, yeah, so then, like, they're like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, I'll show you. Come through the door. And then he just goes through the wall in front of them, and they're like, what the hell? What? Oh my god. And then, yeah, and he's like, it's fine, come in. And so, after some hesitation, they follow him, and then they start to explore. Okay, anyways, I just had to, like, get up for a minute, because I was losing my words, but I'm here. Okay. So now they're all in the back rooms, and Clark brought, like, a rope, and, like, brought some stuff, because there's, like, you know, parts of the set, let's call it the set, like, parts of, like, the back rooms that are, like, you know, like, holes, so you want to go explore, like, what's down there, you know? And so, yeah, so eventually they come to this one hole that, like, leads down to, like, more rooms. And so Clark kind of, like, signs up Bobby to, like, go down there. So they put the rope on him, and he takes the camera down. And yeah, and they, like, attach the rope to a table, and they, like, send him down to go look at stuff. And he goes into this room that has a bunch of clothes all over it, and apparently it smells really bad, because he's like, oh my god, it stinks in here. And there's just, like, clothes everywhere. And he looks in this one pile of clothes, and it's actually his own shirt from a couple scenes ago. Like, in the first shot we saw him, so, like, yeah, like, it comes from, like, the first shot we saw him while he was filming Clark's commercial. So the shirt he was wearing in that scene is in the pile of clothes in the clothes room, in the back rooms. And he kind of, like, picks it up and looks at it and is like, bro, that's mine. He doesn't, he doesn't acknowledge it out loud, but, like, you can tell. You can just tell by the way that, like, the scene is shot that he's like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And so eventually he hears something, and he's like, guys, pull me up. And so they, like, pull him back up to the top of the hole, and then they're about to like untie him and release him, but then something from below starts pulling the rope and starts pulling him back down the backrooms hall. And like they're trying to like pull him back up, but it takes him. And then he gets pulled back down. And so then Kat and Clark, they're like trying to figure out what to do, and then the table that the rope was attached to gets pushed into them and then pushes both of them down the hole, so now everybody's down there, and it's like, oh shit. Yeah, so then like the camera that he left there was like still there, so it's like showing like the room. And so Bobby, he got like ripped apart by an entity or something. It's not exactly shown what got him. I'll mention something about this later. Like, it's not exactly sure what the hell got to that guy, because he like, yeah, like whatever happened, it like ripped off like a leg. It like pulled out some organs or something, and he like gets, and so like it like dragged his body like through like this little flap in the wall, and like as he's getting pulled through it, like all of like it hits his head on it, and like a bunch of blood just comes out, and it's like, ooh, okay, what the freak. And so then Kat like starts running toward him and is like trying to like find him, and then she like runs into another room to go like look or whatever, and then leaves Clark in that room. And then he's like telling her to like come back, and then an unseen force picks up the camera. Like none of them are near it, like they're all away from it, and like something else just lifts the camera up. What? And so yeah, and then eventually Clark is like running through places, and then it shows some shots that like hint to the pool rooms. Like nobody thought that like the pool rooms were gonna be there. I mean, some people did, but like I didn't think that the pool rooms were gonna be there, because I didn't know if like the pool rooms were part of Kane's series, because like I'm not as up to date as I should be on it. Like, but like I'm starting to like do more research on it now that I've seen the movie. But like yeah, then it showed like pool rooms, and like a couple scenes earlier before like Kat and Bobby got like slimed out, like he did say like something about a pool. He was like, yeah, there's all these rooms and there's even a pool. Yeah, but yeah, so now he's like running around, and then oh yeah, so he's like in a room and he hears Kat like yelling for him, and she's like saying, let me in, and he's like, where are you? Because they're like on the same side of a wall, but like somehow on his side it's a regular wall, but on her side it's like clear glass, and so she can see him but he can't see her, so it's like, yeah, so she's like, why won't you let me in? I can see you right there. And he's like, I can't see you, where are you? It's like really interesting. Like I've never seen something like that before. I was quite a fan. Yeah. And then it's implied that she got like killed. We don't like see her death, but you know, her body parts appear later. Yeah. So yeah, so then Clark like runs away, and he goes into like the absolute scariest room in the entire, like the scariest part of the entire film is this room with a Christmas tree. It's like completely dark, but it has a Christmas tree and like the Christmas lights, and it's like, what the fuck is, you look at it and you're like, what the fuck is that? It's crazy, bro. And then what the fuck is my camera doing? Genuinely, can you stop? Okay. And it's just like, what? You see the Christmas room and you're like, bro, we're cooked. Okay. So, alright. Yeah, and then he's like looking around and goes past the Christmas tree, and there's like a freaking creature, and it starts running at him, and he's like, "Get away from me!" Yeah, and so eventually, this scene, after like a long ass time of craziness, finally ends, and we see Mary, in her house, kind of like having, like, at like a function, a gathering, and stuff. And she's like talking to people. But then, actually, that scene might have been earlier. I may have misplaced it. But then there's like a scene of her like just in her house, and she goes to like her phone, and there's like a message from Clark, and he says like this like cryptic message, and he's like, "I won't be coming back." So then, yeah. So then Mary decides to go to the store, and then like, yeah, and said, what did I just say? And then, yeah, so she eventually finds that little piece of light that's the entrance to the back rooms, and after some hesitation, goes through and is in the back rooms. And so, yeah, she starts exploring and is like quite confused, and she finds like this drawing on a wall that has like a bunch of weird messages on it. Like I remember one, like there's like a bunch of weird stuff written on it, but one of them says, "Tables don't bleed blood." I don't know what that means, but like it's crazy. And then there's a picture of like this creature, and like the drawing of the creature is like eating a person, and we will find out what that is very shortly, actually. Yeah, and then, so yeah, she's looking at it, then she turns around and just sees Clark, like, standing in a corner, just, like, in an NPC pose. He's just there, and then he comes out, and she's like, what? She's like, "Where are we?" And he drops this crazy line, and it's delivered so well, and he's like, "It's every place that ever was." Whoa! That's actually, like, that's so tough, you know? Like, that like, really emphasizes, like, how crazy this place is. Hang on. Bro, I'm tired. So, anyway. Dude, hang on. What the freak? Oh my gosh. I look crazy. Okay. And so, yeah. And then, yeah, so then they hear a crazy sound. It's like scream from across the back rooms. And Mary's like, "What's that?" And then Clark says, "Don't worry, it's only me. You know me." What? Dude, what do you mean it's you? I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah. And then, but then out of absolutely nowhere, he chokes her out. And I'm like, what? Yeah, and then eventually they end up at a table, and so at the table is Mary, and then Clark at the other end, and then on the side of it there's like this like creature. So basically, like the creature's like they look like humans but like messed up and have like extra eyes and missing stuff. They're actually called the still life. Yeah, so those things are called the still life. So yeah, so at the table is like this still life guy, and then in like the corner standing up is this still life woman who has red hair, and that's important because Clark's ex-wife also had red hair. And like the room is like the kitchen of a house. Yeah, and so eventually Mary wakes up and Clark starts talking about like how he's gotten to like know this place and what he's learned about the place. And stuff that he's learned about like the still life. By the way, like none of the characters like say what it's called, but like that's just like what it's called canonically in Kane's lore. You know, yeah. Okay. And so, yeah. And then Clark is like explaining like a bunch of stuff, and he said, and he like talking about the still life, and is like, and they can't feel anything, and like stabs the like guy one in the neck. Okay, that's a little scary. And then he says, and then he drops this. He's like, and the best part, you can eat them. Okay, and he literally just like opens up like the guy's shirt and just rips out pieces of him and like puts them on plates in front of himself and Mary and even the guy. Like, fuck you mean you can eat them? How did you figure that out? How long were you in here, bro? How did you make this connection? I'm a little scared. Yeah. And so Mary is like, why are you doing this to me? Can you let me go? And so then the girl still alive in the corner, Clark goes up to it and starts cutting off its hair and like rips its hair off and puts it onto Mary's head. And then he's like, we're gonna do the role play again. So he starts trying to force her to do like the role play of the night that his wife left. And so he like puts the thing's hair on her to make her like actually look like Barbara, you know? And then so he starts like saying his lines and stuff. And genuinely, this scene is like, the way that he like performs this scene is some of the best acting I've seen like in a long time. He's actually incredible. I love you, Chiwetel. You're so freaking cool. You're the GOAT. Oh my goodness, bruh. Yeah, and like, just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just incredible. It's amazing. Like, wow. He just starts going, man, and he's just, whoa. Oh my gosh. Okay. And so he starts trying to like make her do the role play, and she's like not agreeing, and then he's like, stay in character. Stay in character. That's like a meme too. And then so then eventually she like gets the hair off herself, and he's like, stay in character, and then she drops fuck you. and then she starts like, then she like kind of like her, something in her brain like snaps, and she like finally is like, you know what, there's nothing I can do for this guy. This guy's a lost cause. You know what? I'm gonna tell him what I actually think about him. I'm gonna tell him what his problem actually is. And then she's like, hello? And then she's like, you know the real reason your wife left you? It's not about the drinking or coming home at all hours or like whatever. I forgot the exact quote, but then she's like, it's the whining. All you do. Nothing is ever your fault, is it? Because about Clark, he blames everything, he blames everything on everything and everyone else but himself. Anytime he has a problem, even if he was the cause of it, he just complains. He doesn't know how to do anything except for blame it on other people. And whenever he has a problem, he takes it out on other people. He'll lash out at others. He would always yell at Kat and Bobby for stuff, and he would get upset with Mary in therapy sessions, and he would blame everything on his ex-wife, even if she didn't do everything. He doesn't know how to take accountability. And he just kind of gets mad and complains. And he has no idea how to recognize, if he's done anything wrong. You know? And, he just wants to be able to do, whatever he wants. And he, doesn't understand that, the world has rules. He's a very, very interesting character. Like, I love the way he's written so much. Like, he's so, like, so well done. Yeah, and so then she's talking to him, and is like, yeah, you hate your job. You hate your job. You start drinking. You drink too much. Like, you drink too. No, it's like, that's not how it goes. It's like, you drink too much. Blame your job. You hate your job. Blame the world. And like, you get kicked out. That's all her fault. Like, because everything that happens, he blames it on anyone else. He just kind of lives this life of like, I'm so sad and I'm so depressed, but none of it's because of anything I did. It's only because of the stuff that everybody else did, and I'm just gonna ruin everybody else's life because I'm so sad. You know, that's like basically how he thinks. And like, he wants to live a life of like complete freedom of his own will and desires. And so, yeah. So then, yeah, eventually, so Mary tells Clark, she's like, and you know what? There's nothing that I can do for you. I can't save you. I can't save anyone. And she kind of has, a little bit of a reflection of her own, of how really, as a therapist, like, you really don't have control over other people's behaviors. Like when it all comes down to is like, really, like, even though that's your job, like, really, you're not in control of that. And like, you know, you can't fix everything, you know? And so, yeah. And then, yeah, so eventually, like, Clark is having a reflection, and he realizes that, like, all the time that, and so, like, basically what happened is, like, all the time that he's, like, spent, like, in therapy and stuff, and, like, trying to change, like, he really doesn't want to change the way that he is. He's not able to become a different person. And so he's like, I don't want to change. I like it the way I am. And so he says, like, and so he's talking about, like, the Backrooms. He's like, I like it in here. And so he wants to stay because the Backrooms is a place where he's able to, like, be, like, the person that he is without other people, like, trying to stop him. You know? Like, in there's not, like, societal expectations, there's not rules, there's not people who would be hurt by him, because the still life, they can't feel anything. And, like, and also, like, another thing, there's, like, a theory, like, kind of like, symbolism, is that, like, you know, he wanted to be an architect. And, like, architecture has a lot of rules and a lot of, like, guidelines. And he, like, is not, and, like, he doesn't like to, you know, follow, like, how life is supposed to go. And so, like, the reason that he likes the Backrooms is because the architecture has no rules. Oh shit, you know? Yeah. And so eventually he comes to the realization of, I don't want to leave. I like it in here. Because this place is where he can live out his life as the kind of person that he is, because nobody is able to change him. Like, if you are a certain way, other people can't change you. The only person who can change you is yourself, and he's not willing to do that. And so he finally found a place that can accommodate his behavior. Like, yeah, the Backrooms has no societal expectations, no rules or limits, nobody to be hurt by his actions, nobody to argue with. Like, it's the perfect place for somebody like him. And he has realized that he kind of belongs there. And so, then he agrees to releasing Mary. And so, then, what enters the room is this big ass creature. Oh shit. This is my favorite, bro, my favorite act of the film is coming up. Yeah, this big fucking thing comes into the room, which is this very large creature that looks like a bigger version of Clark and is dressed in his pirate costume from the Captain Clark commercials. So the creature is referred to by the fandom as Captain Clark. Some people call him Pirate Clark, but like that's not correct. Literally look at the name of the store, it's Captain Clark. That is Captain Clark. Yeah, and so Captain Clark is so cool. He's actually like my favorite like movie monster I've ever seen in my life. He's just so interesting. And he's actually played by a real person. He's not CGI. He's literally played by an actual guy in prosthetic makeup. This guy named Robert Bobrowski. He like is like a former basketball player, and who turned to doing like creature acting. And he actually played the offspring from Alien Romulus. Yeah, and like he's able to do this because like he's literally like 8 feet tall. Like he's actually 7'7", and he just like his body type like fits like it just like fits so well to like do stuff like that. So then for the design of Captain Clark, it's literally his body but with like prosthetic makeup on to look like the creature. It's like, yeah, like practical effects are coming back. Like so many modern films now, like modern like independent films that are made by like filmmakers who actually care are bringing back practical effects like that. Like, oh my gosh, yeah. So anyways, Captain Clark shows up, and then Clark is like, oh, this is Mary. She was just leaving. It's okay. And then, so Captain Clark kind of like feels threatened a little bit, because like this new person just entered like their home. And then Clark is like, no, it's okay. And so like basically, because like Captain Clark is like is like a version of Clark's consciousness. He's kind of like a representation of his like negative qualities in a way. And so like basically Mary was trying to make Clark change, and so Captain Clark was like offended by this and felt like betrayed a little bit, well, and felt like threatened because like, you know, Clark is not supposed to change because he belongs to the Backrooms now. And so Captain Clark kind of like is like, why is she here? She's trying to change you, you know? And so then he also feels betrayed by Clark for like letting her in, you know, in a way. And so then, yeah, so he like feels like Clark was like a traitor to him. And so, yeah, and so like Clark also had like a lot of like repressed guilt and stuff. And so eventually, and so Clark is like, no, it's okay, don't worry, she's leaving. And then he's like, she says we don't need to change. Because, well, like, what, like, the goal for a while was that, like, the goal was to change him, but, like, eventually both himself and Mary came to the realization that, like, he can't change, so he doesn't need to. Because, like, there was a scene a little bit back where he was like, I don't think I want to change, and she was like, then don't! But yeah, so now everybody, so, like, yeah. But so like Captain Clark doesn't quite doesn't trust Mary. You know, he doesn't like believe this because he is like the embodiment of like Clark's negativity in a way. Yeah. And so basically Clark is like, it's okay. She says we don't need to change. But then so Captain Clark picks him up and eats him. Literally, it's like you're seeing this happen, you're a little bit confused, you're like, what's going on? So then he literally bites him and kills him and eats him. Mind you, I did not expect that to occur. I didn't think that he would like die. Yeah, so that's kind of like the big shocking climax moment of the film. And it's like kind of a representation of his repressed guilt eating him alive. Basically, that's what it is. Like, Captain Clark is a representation of his negativities and his guilt and his, like, bad behaviors and, like, stuff. And I believe that, like, an interpretation to why that, like, Captain Clark is so much, like, bigger than real Clark is, like, because Clark's negative stuff, like, is, like, basically bigger than himself. And that's why he can't change, because those behaviors overpower everything in him. So that's why, like, the physical manifestation of that is physically larger than him. Yeah, and then it came to a point where it ate him. Literally, it ate him, like how they describe, like, guilt eating you. Guys, are you hearing me? Do you feel me, bro? Okay, so yeah, eventually, that happens, and you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and so, like, Captain Clark is still kind of, like, mad at Mary, you know, and she, like, runs away, and is trying to get away and stuff, and then he keeps following, and, like, there's a scene where, like, she's, like, in, like, this, like, really liminal space, like neighborhood-looking area, and, like, it, like, looks so good, like, another example of that set being incredible, and then, yeah. And so, then he's like, Captain Clark is like dragging Clark's body with like a severed leg and is just like bringing him down the street. It's like, it's such a crazy shot. Yeah, and then eventually, Mary, she like finds this room with like a bunch of couches, and she's trying to climb over the couches, and she like literally like trips on a couch, which makes her like break her leg somehow. I was actually really pissed off at this. It just like, I was like, how are you gonna break your fucking leg on a couch? I don't understand. How are you gonna break your leg on a couch? What the hell? But like, yeah, and so then after she like trips on this couch, it wasn't even like the hard part or anything. It was like the cushion of the couch, the soft piece of the couch. And then she like can't walk for the rest of the film. Yeah, and then she like starts like limping everywhere and crawling everywhere and being like so slow. And like it was like so slow to the point that it was like annoying. But also it kind of represents like how you can't run in dreams. You know? I'll say. And then, yeah. And so, then, yeah, then eventually, she goes through a lot of crazy places. They all look really good. And eventually, like, she climbs out to this one area where she thinks that she's gotten out and thinks that she's, like, in the store, but then it's not the store. It is the Backrooms' interpretation of the store. Oh shoot, I need to pause for a minute because I forgot to mention something really important. So the reason the Backrooms looks like it does, and the reason it has all the stuff that it has in it, is because the Backrooms, it tries to remember real places. So like, the Backrooms is like as big as the whole world, theoretically, but everything in it looks wrong and looks the way it does because it's like a incorrect memory of places. So over time, the backrooms deteriorates and looks worse because it is over time forgetting the places and things that it remembered. And also, like, the still life are, like, bad memories of, like, people who have in some way interacted with the space. Yeah. So, like, yeah, so the room with the table scene where Clark, like, kidnapped Mary, that room was the backrooms memory of Clark's house. Yeah. Okay. I should have mentioned that earlier, but, like, that's what the backrooms is. Yeah, like, it's, like, basically, like, it could be implied as, like, an alternate dimension, because, like, it's not, like, a physical place on Earth, but it, like, at the same time also is. It's basically just it's basically like a manifestation of memory of the universe, you know? Like, it's not, like, physical, but it also is. Yeah. You know, it's just, yeah. So, like, every place the backrooms creates but remembers it incorrectly until it looks unrecognizable. Same thing with the people who are the still life. Yeah. There's a lot of different theories for, like, what Captain Clark is, though. Also, like, initially, you would have thought, I was talking about a long time ago, that, like, how, like, we don't know what, like, got Bobby. Like, they're, like, because, like, it probably wouldn't have been Captain Clark. Because, like, Clark hadn't yet became so familiar with the backrooms yet. So, like, there's a lot of theories about that, and also, like, what Captain Clark is, because, like, any other person in the world just gets, like, a still life copy of them, but then no, they can't, like, move or do stuff, really. But then, like, Captain Clark looks like that. He's so big, he has all this mobility, you know? What is he? Anyways, back to the actual events. Yeah, so Mary is, like, running through the back rooms, and she thinks she found the store, but actually didn't. She's just still in the back rooms. And then Captain Clark is there. He's still following her. His design is so cool. I love him. God, he looks so great. And then, yeah. And then, so there's, like, these things with, like, gas coming out of them. They're, like, async placed. And they keep, like, going off. And so Captain Clark, like, almost gets Mary, but she gets, like, this, like, I don't know what it's called, but, like, this, like, stick thing. It's, like, a piece of furniture. I don't know what you call it, but, like, she, like, tries to use that as a weapon against him, but it doesn't work. And then eventually, like, he is, like, on top of her. He's, like, about to eat her. So in her pocket is the little piece of cement handprint from her old house, and so she takes that out, whips that out, and uses that to, like, bash in his face, and that basically is her finally letting go of the terrible memories from her childhood. Like, now she's able to disconnect from that and, like, finally use that for good and, like, not be tied down by those thoughts anymore. Yeah. And also that killed Captain Clark. Well, not yet. He didn't get killed, but, like, it got her away from him. So eventually she goes into this little, like, really, like, narrow hallway in the back rooms to, like, escape. And then she's kind of like, and then Captain Clark is, like, still, like, reaching through and trying to, like, and just, like really pathetically, like, trying to, like, reach in, and he's, like, almost giving up, and he, like, is whining, just like Mary said that Clark always did. Like, she, like, takes a minute to stop and just look at him and just observe him, because, like, the way that, like Captain Clark, the interpretation of, like, the big interpretation of Clark, is just looking so sad and pathetic, and he's like crying. And so she just takes a moment to like observe, you know? It's just really incredible, you know? It's crazy, you know? And Kane Parsons is only 20 years old. Well, actually, he's not 20 anymore. He recently turned 21 a couple days ago. But, like, you know, whatever. So, eventually, Mary finally gets out of this area. And there's, like, the, like, hazmat suit guys that would, like, appear in, like, the original Backrooms videos and stuff. So, like, some of those were there. And, like, they, like, think she's, like, an entity, so they, like, spray, like, the gas on her, but she, like, pushes through and gets out and, like, falls onto them. And then, yeah, so then eventually she gets taken into the async facility, because they have to, like, study her because, like, you know, there was a person in the back rooms. So, yes, and then, eventually... I should need to stop saying eventually, but yeah, so she's put in the async facility, and they, like, give her new clothes, and she, like, sits down in a, like, interrogation room looking place, and then this guy comes in. Mind you, it's Mark Duplass, bro. What is he doing here? I mean, I knew he'd be there, but, like, bro, it's the guy from Creep. And so, yeah, so he shows up, and he's like, and yeah, his name is Phil. Yeah, so then Mary is like, why am I here? Who are you guys? And then Phil is like explains what async is, and, like, explains, like, you know, we have to, like, you have to, like, do, like, some studying of you because you were here. And, like, we believe that this place is the most important thing ever in recorded history. You know, which, that makes sense. And then, so then he asked her, like, how she got in the back rooms, and she was like, I walked through a wall. And, yeah, and so then, like, she was like, I got here because I was looking for someone. And so he shows a recording of Clark in the back rooms, because earlier, a very long time ago, all the way back at the beginning, like, Phil from Async, like, he set up, there's, like, cameras in the back rooms, and so he saw Clark on the camera, like a long time ago, you know? And so, yeah, so he, like, so now he says to Mary, like, were you looking for this man? But she, like, refuses to answer, because she's like, well, can you tell me what's gonna happen to me? But he doesn't tell her that. And so it's a little crazy, because it's like, what is gonna happen? And then eventually it kind of cuts away, and then it just cuts to, like, now there's a still life copy of Mary just sitting in a chair in the async facility. And literally, that's the end of the film. That is literally the end. Like, it is, like, it's such an incredible, like, allegory of, like, human behaviors and stuff, you know? Like, Clark's whole characterization is absolutely phenomenal, and, like, even Mary's is, like, done really well, although, like, you know, not as insanely, like, beautiful as, like, Clark's portrayal of everything. Like, yeah, I saw this film in the cinema 3 times. Wow. The youngest A24 director ever, Kane Parsons. We love you, Kane Parsons. He was only 20 years old. Oh my gosh. And, yeah. And, like, oh my gosh. A crazy thing that happened, actually, is A24, signed an agreement with, like, an AI company. Dude, A24 is doing AI shit now. And mind you, Kane Parsons, just a little while ago, was, like, interviewed, and he was talking about how he absolutely despises AI, and he would never ever use it, and he wishes that it would just stop existing forever. And so, like, basically, like, right after A24 made Kane's film, they went and signed a deal with AI. Like, bro, because it's like, because it's like he wouldn't have like made this with them if they did that before making his film. Like, also A24, why would you do that? Like, they have literally been like the number one like indie film producer forever. Like, what the hell? Betraying us, by the way. But yes. So Backrooms, absolutely incredible. Because I watched this film, I'm now doing more research on like the original lore and stuff, and I'm gonna actually watch Kane's original series, and I'm gonna get more educated on it. Yes. Another film that came out at the same time as Backrooms is also Curry Barker's Obsession. I've seen that as well. It is also absolutely incredible. It was made, and so Curry Barker is 26, and he was also previously a YouTuber. So 2026 is the year where Gen Z YouTubers dominate the film industry and create the highest grossing films in the whole world. And like Kane Parsons' Backrooms, he's only 20, and Curry Barker's Obsession, which I'll talk about later actually. I'll make a video on it. He was 26. Those are like the top 2 films in the world, and like literally YouTuber, I was about to say comedy YouTubers, but like only one of them did comedy, but like YouTubers in their 20s making their first film are like the most valuable people in the industry right now. It's insane. Like, we're finally experiencing a change. Like, genuinely, the era of cinema is returning. Like, we've had so much like disgusting corporate slop the past couple years, but now like the people are recognizing like who we really need, and it's amazing. I'll do like a whole like standalone like video on this topic, in the near future, because it really has to be addressed. Like, it's crazy. Anyways, I think I talked about enough. I think I got all my points across. But yeah, so I will see you guys quite soon. I'm gonna start posting much more regularly now. Goodbye.